Hello again, this is Avish Trutu here with yet another demonstration on how to promote Windows Server 2008 to being that of a primary domain controller. Right now, in order to do that, I have to use the is it a command or the tool dcpromo.exe, which can be typed either in command prompt as we have here, right, by running as an administrator, or you can just simply type it in the search pane right here in under all programs. So I will do it in this little bar right here by going dcpromo.exe, right, and there we see DC promo populated. So now onto the setup interface. Just enter this in the screen, right? So this is just the welcoming screen, so we will not use advanced mode. I'm just going to do it simple. So I'll just click next, right? Again, next. Now this is a point where we get the option to either create a new domain in a new forest or use an existing forest. Now, because of how this is a first primary domain controller that we are creating, um, we will just select create a new domain in a new forest and then select next. Now the network name, sorry, the domain root name would be, well, I can leave it as avish.com, right, just for this demonstration. Select next. Now here it is validating the name or to checking to see if the domain is not already in use. Alright, so it shouldn't take long. Right, good, so it's finished. So now we just select the forest functional level. So I can leave it at 2008. This is basically for any version of Windows Server that is, well, earlier than 2008 up to, in this case, 2000 can, well, pretty much have well, the advanced features and everything will be available to those domain controllers, right? Or it will operate on the same functional level in this case. So right, so the domain functional level again, 2000 native, next. So it's just examining the DNS configuration, which has finished. Now in this setup, the domain controller setup, that is, it requires that there be a DNS server. So this is where we are at this window that allows me to, well, install a DNS server. Now they still give me the option where I can unselect it and just progress forward, but in this case, since it's a much needed feature, we will leave it in check and select next. Right, so this is just a little prompt, right? So just select next to continue. Right, now this is just the central, well, storage area for these database files for Active Directory and all of those other features. So you just leave it as next, like as is, and select next. Now the directory services restore mode, that requires a password in case that I need to recover anything. I will have this password here with its highest level of privilege. So in this case, I will use my very long password there. Nice. Right, so having done so, this is just a summary of everything. Right, I can choose to export the settings, but I would not in this case, right, because this is just a simple demonstration. So I select next. Right, so while this is, well, configuring itself based on the settings that was selected earlier, I will also check this box, reboot on completion, so that once it's finished, it automatically reboots. And I will pause the video and resume when it's finished, as this is time consuming. Right, so I'll be back. Okay, so that has already been, well, set up, so it just restarting the virtual machine. Okay, so again I'll resume once it reaches the logon. Okay, so initially during the startup it took quite a while to reach a logon screen as it was applying all the configurations and settings that was input before we restart the server. Right, and now that it has done so, I will just log in. Right, so here we can see that the name has been changed to Avish slash administrator. Well, Avish would be the NetBIOS name in this case, right? So I will just input my password. Alright, so nice, just preparing everything. Good. So now when the server manager console comes up, I can go on rules, right? And let me just wait for this to collect data as being indicated here, right? And once I check the rules, right, I should see the Active Directory and domain and all domain configurations are, well, should be there, right? So I just click on remove rules just to see what it, right, good. So Active Directory domain services is there, DNS server is also there, right? So nice, everything is in check for that. So I can just cancel that wizard, right? Good. Alright, so now that all of those features have been installed, I can now go to the administrative tools, which can be found in all programs, administrative tools, and right here we will see this Active Directory domains and trust, and along with other, well, useful domain tools then. So in this case we'll be using the Active Directory users and computers. So just to make things a little simple, I will right click and add this to quick launch. Right, so here it is here. Nice. So now I will open this up. Good. So here we can see my domain avish.com, right? And within this I can navigate around and see the different, well, in here we have the different levels of accounts that serves different purposes. In this case, account operators, for instance, will allow us to, well, create and edit user profiles, right? Backup operators, administrators, they all have different levels of privilege for a different aspect of, well, configuration on a domain, right? So we don't really have much of anything really to see a big compilation or contents in any of these folders, right? So this is our domain controllers. In this case, Windows 7, Windows Server 2008 being the primary domain controller, and as indicated here, default first site name, right? So now I will look to go and create a user, right? So I will right click anywhere here, right, and just select, oops, I'm in the wrong folder. Okay, so I will just go on the users folder, and under here right click, select new user. Right, so this allows me to create, well, let's see, what can I put as a name for this user. So I'll just put myself, Avish02. Oops, again, wrong field. Initials not necessary, but you can put AC. Right, so Avish02, full name is that. So my user logon name could be Avish space show2, right, at avish.com. Right, so that is it there. Select next. I don't want to change my password, so I'll just uncheck that and select password never expires. So for this account I will use the easy to remember password 1 for first time logon. Right, next. Right, so there we go, that user has been created, well, in this case for me. Right, so if I double click on him, the profile comes up with all the relevant fields here. Right, member of, well, I don't have any well, groups that I can add this person to, right? um, Incidentally, I can, like, for other bigger domains where we'll have more categories or groups of different policies assigned to it, this feature here allows, well, the administrator, or in this case I would like to think myself, to add uh, those users to that grouping so that he or she could get certain privileges to access certain resources on the network, whether it be printing or access to file sharing server, or stuff like that. Alright, so he's good there. I will create a couple other users so that when I join on Windows XP, Windows 7 and Windows Vista to this domain, I will log on to them using separate um, user accounts. Right, so again, I'll create a new user. First name, what can I put? I don't know, I'll put my little nickname, mboogie. Right, so the logon would be mboogie at avish.com. Right, so next, same, I don't want any password change at the beginning, so I will set password never expires. Again, I will use password 1 as the default password for this profile. Next, and finish, and there we go. So nice. Next, I will create the final user. This one, I can just create him as warlord. Initials. Okay, no. Yes. Right. So warlord Jotu. Right. So now the logon name for this could be warlord Jotu at avish.com. Next, again select uncheck that password must be changed. Right, and I can now select input the password 1 as default password. Nice, so we are good there. So we now have our 3 users, mboogie, warlord and well avish. Alright, so these are the test profiles which will be used when we connect Windows XP, Windows 7 and Windows Vista to well our domain. Alright, so having done so, right, I will now, okay, I just minimize that. Let me start, actually, yeah, let me start up Windows 7. Alright, so let me just pause the video while it starts up since it takes a little while. Okay, so I'm back and Windows 7 VM is now up. So now I can proceed to adding this to the domain that was just created in Windows Server 2008. So I will go about here by right clicking on my computer, selecting properties. Alright, now I will change settings right here. Select change again. Nice. So here I will add the domain, which is avish.com, which was previously created. Select OK. It'll bring up the window to enter credentials of someone that has administrative network privilege. So in this case, since I did not create any in particular, I would just use the one main account that I've been using to do all of this. Right. So select OK there. Nice. So we have successfully logged into the domain. So now it'll just have to restart the computer or the VM in this case. So I will restart now and resume when it is back up, right? Okay, so again, Windows 7 has restarted and I will now proceed to log in using one of the profiles that was created. Right, well, let's try Avish Jotu. Right, and the default password, which will be password 1 that was used for it. So, and we good to go there. So now as you can see, it's preparing desktop. So we have successfully created a profile that is being loaded from the domain. Nice. So we are at our desktop. Right, let me just do a little bit of customizing here. Right, so if I go on properties and I open up this window, here I will see that I am connected to the domain avish.com. Alright, and I am now, well, this profile has been successfully set up so that I can now give it either network level administrative privilege or just standard user privileges, which it can access printing or any sort of resources to be shared. Right, so that is for Windows 7. Right, so now I will shut down this VM and proceed to logging on via XP and Vista. So in the meantime, I'll click shut down and pause the video and resume when I power up the next VM, right? Okay, so I have started up my Windows XP virtual machine, and now I will proceed to log in and give it, well, join it to the domain. So I have no password here. Alright, so now I will just go through the properties here. Under that, click change, and now I can allow this machine to join the domain. Domain would have been avish.com. Right, so it asks me for my credentials. I'll type in my network level uh, credentials. Alright, so hopefully I got it right. Normally takes a little while to. Right, good. So we have successfully joined the domain through Windows XP. So now it'll ask to restart so that this computer can reflect this change. Right, so while that is restarting, I will proceed to do the same thing on Windows Vista. So now I will again bring it up, go on computer, as I say here, right click and select properties, which brings up this little window here, change settings, which furthermore click change, right, and on the domain, well, join the avish.com domain, asks me for my credentials, right, so enter my stuff, and after a minute or two it should properly join. Ah, good, nice, lovely. So just like XP, it'll ask to restart, and so I have it do that. Alright, let me just monitor and see how far XP is reached. Ah, good. So XP has successfully joined this domain and restarted. So now I will proceed to load one of the profiles that was created. Right, so now which profile should I use? Let's see. Actually, I'll go with Boogie. Password will be password1. Right, now unlike when this XP was not on a domain, you only saw two fields, that being the username and the password, because there was not really any additional, well, any additional mode for this computer to log on to. Now what we're seeing here is Windows XP as in this computer. That is, if I were to log in with a local account, that is to access this machine locally, right? So in this case I will select the domain, which is Avish, right, and my password there, select OK, and it's loading the settings successfully. Nice. So very quickly and smoothly everything went well, and I have XP now join the domain. Right, let me just indicate so. Alright, computer name. Nice. Well, as this account is just a regular user account, the policies by default would be to not enable this user to change anything network related, right, as it's quite restricted. That's why these fields here are faded out, right? So but nevertheless, it's, as indicated, it's joins the avish.com domain, right? So let me just do the same for Windows Vista, minimize that. Right, where is Vista? Right, good. So input, right, so which profile can I load here? So I have Warlord, Show2, excuse the names please. Right, password will be password1. Right, let's see if it successfully loads. Right, so we have success there. It successfully pulled the profile and is loading its desktop. Because it's Vista, it's just very slow. Because it's Vista. Right. Nice. So our domain profile has successfully been set up on Windows Vista. Right. Just make sure and show that right. Here we go. So the domain avish.com. Nice. Great. Good. So we have all three machines or VMs, each with their own individual domain profile being loaded. right? Oops, where is Windows 7? Nice. Well, let me just log in via Windows 7 there just to show. Nice. So that's loaded. So good. All profiles are up. Nice. So I will just log back into Windows Server 2008. Alright, cool. So now in Active Directory, I can now see and well pretty much control all the configurations for these profiles here. So if I were to, okay, let me just see who is logged on here. Right, Warlord, right. So I can log him off. Right. And now from within Active Directory, I can edit little settings then that would reflect on Warlord's account. So in this case, I can I can change the password. So whereas the password was password 1 before, I will set it as something a little bit more long and complex. Now on a domain, passwords normally are required to meet certain conventions. That is, it must either probably contain a capital letter followed by minimum 8 characters of lowercase and either a number or a symbol at the end, right? So that's why, just for to not get any prompts, I am practicing to input my passwords whatever they be under that convention, right? Now aside from the password here where I can change, there is the feature whereby if the user types in an incorrect password for a certain number of times, be it 3 times or 5 times per se, the account is either locked or well suspended. So here has the option, if I check this box, I will unlock the selected user's account, right? So I select OK there, and nice, the password for Warlord Chotu has been changed. So now I can go to Windows Vista where I logged in. Oop, right. So input. Right. So now I have to log in with the new password, which would be that very long thing you saw there. Nice, and we have successfully logged in using our new password. Right. If I were to create different policies and all of this, different groups then to give either Warlord or Mboogie or even Avish the privilege to access certain printers in a different area, or certain files on a server, then over here is where I would create, in this window, that is this window, I'd create what is called a OU, right, or organization unit, right. um, and they will allow me to well give policies then to certain users that might be under certain groups, right. So in this case we just leave it simply as is, just to show that the profiles are connected. Active Directory is able to alter any settings on their profile, whether it be password and stuff, right. So yeah, so we have successfully, well oops, my bad. Alright, so we have successfully created our domain, joined multiple computers to it of different operating systems, and created a profiles for which they each logged onto, right? So that would, I would say that would conclude this aspect of the video. Right, so if I were to also open up this the window, or the yes, the main window for each of the profiles, you'll see here a number of subtabs, like member of, as I said earlier, that this allows me to add this user to a certain group to gain certain privileges or accessing network resources, right. There is right, there's the summary of the user account, where I can set a time trial for which this profile would be active for, right. This is normally used in like internships, where a profile is said to be active for say a period of 3 months. So you can set it from one date, and when it reaches a certain date, the profile will become inactive, right. Here I can also set log on hours. Now this feature, which is very useful, um, allows the administrator to control the logon times of which users, well, are allowed to use a computer or profile or use certain network resources on that profile, right? So if I were to just drag and drop from, let's say, 8, well, this looks like 8 a.m., yes, right, 8 a.m., and go all the way up until, well, up until 8 p.m., right, and set, well, actually, yeah, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., and set it to log on the night. The box here, it is now turns to white, meaning that during the time 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Thursday, no users will be, well, or this user, I should say, would not be allowed to log in, right? So just cancel that, right? Okay, now this here is just for like when it's time to set up roaming profile, which I will show in another demonstration where I demonstrate how to set up a roaming profile and a home folder, right? uh, that is pretty much it for this, well, this demonstration, right? So I hope it was able to clear up anything, or help in some way demonstrating how to do certain things with this, right? With Active Directory and having profiles and stuff all successfully log into a domain, right? So thank you for viewing, and to watch my next video. Bye bye.